Hey there, boys, girls, and flying squirrels. My name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. It's kind of been a bit since we've done one of these, but thankfully, this month's episode is a good one. I sat down with 3/5 of the band Sal Paradise the morning of their release show for their brand new EP, Table for Two. If you haven't checked out this EP, I highly recommend you do so after you listen to this interview because it's just a beautiful record. I happened to listen to it early on a Saturday, and Table for Two is one of those records that is the perfect Saturday morning EP. The band describes their music as soft, sensitive music made by 5 soft, sensitive boys, and it's just that. It's just this really great, gentle, kind of melancholy way to just ease yourself into your day, especially if it's like a cool spring morning, you got a cup of coffee sitting on the deck. It's perfect. During this interview, we discussed the band's inception as a recording project of sorts for Samuel Ketchum, the landscape of the Hamlin University scene, which has put out some of the best indie rock, folk, and singer-songwriter music we've heard recently, and we've covered a lot of those bands on the podcast and on our blog, earcoffee.blogspot.com. This interview isn't going to be your typical writer/music critic interview where I go down my bulleted list of questions and then call it a day. Right out of the gate, we took this hard left turn from what I had planned the conversation to be like and just kind of decided to go with it and just let them chat. This is definitely one of my favorite interviews. It's Samuel Ketchum, Samuel Dustin, and Robert Northrup of the band Sal Paradise on the Ear Coffee Podcast. All right, so I'm joined by Samuel Dustin, Samuel Ketchum, and Robert Northrup, 3/5 of the band Sal Paradise. Gentlemen, how are you this morning?
Great. Good. Yeah,
how are you?
You know, it's good. It's a good Saturday morning.
Yes. Yeah, it's sunny.
It's nice. Warming up after...
Oh, miserable winter.
It's really interesting because once I was doing a little research, all of you, except for Robert, or both of you both the Samuels have kind of contacted Ear Coffee individually, and we've all had interactions throughout, and it was interesting seeing the various circle of just bands and people we know, because we're slowly kind of catching up to you're all Hamlin students, right?
I was.
Or you were.
In ways.
You've all been in Hamlin. So it's just kind of catching up to that, not catching up, but like seeing all the connections and something.
Right. Twin Cities is the biggest small town that exists.
The Hamlin scene too is like really like there's a ton of bands coming out of Hamlin now. It's just kind of insane.
Yes, that's actually one of the questions I wanted to talk about. What makes Hamlin the place to have so many like bands? Because it's not only like we've noticed a larger output of music, but also good music, and you all are kind of involved in various bands of Hamlin. What do you guys think makes it?
I think it's because a lot of us know each other. I think that's. I mean, like me and Sam Dustin for sure like have a lot of connections in the music scene just because of he went to SPCPA and I know a bunch of people from those high schools, and like I convinced a bunch of people to go to Hamlin kind of for different reasons, and then like ended up being in bands with them, and I don't know, I think
it's just because it's pretty much a big high school. It's really small, so we all hang out
Hamlin
with each other
High.
anyways. And then people are doing music, and we ask each other to be in bands, and then suddenly there's like 5 bands when everyone like with some common members and stuff.
Yes.
So you all you came from SPC?
Yeah,
Samuel,
SPCPA.
SPCPA.
Yes.
Are you both part of that scene as well, or
No, I'm from Red Wing, Minnesota. So I grew up. Yeah.
I mean,
and you're friends with a lot of those guys?
I went to School of Rock, which is like an after-school kind of music program, which is also where a lot of the bands in the Twin Cities are kind of coming from. A lot of us met through that program. I know that. And then
one of your former drummers, or a drummer, is a member of Juniper Douglas.
Yes.
Kind of came out of that SP.
Yes.
That school scene. Plus, you're friends with Austin Lombardo. I saw, and we've done interviews with him and stuff like that. So it's just kind of this weird connection of spiderweb.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting how that works.
Kind of the Hamlin people, and then also kind of the SPCPA art kids.
art kids, yeah.
So tell me, how did you guys form to be Sal Paradise?
Okay, so it started the summer right before my sophomore year of college, and
so what year was that?
So it would have been 2016.
Okay.
And I went to a cabin with my friend Dan, who was like the guy I started this project with, and we just recorded a demo called Lowest Form of Life that summer. And then I came back and had a bunch of CDs, and I gave them out at Hamlin. And it being so small, like I was able to form a lot of connections. And then I already knew Sam. I don't think he went to Hamlin anymore at that point, but I knew him from Hamlin.
Yes, yeah.
And so I just, connected with Robert. He like saw me play at an open mic, and we were classmates. And yeah, I just had the CD and wanted to put a band behind it, and that's kind of how it formed.
So have you Samuel Ketchum? There you go. There's so many.
Too many.
No, you're good. So you've been the primary songwriter behind this project, or do you guys all kind of collaborate to create songs, or how does that kind of come together?
I'd say I'm the main songwriter, like within, like I write the chords and I write the lyrics and the melodies. But when, like if you listen to the Lowest Form of Life thing I came out with versus what we released just today, Table for Two, a lot of those songs are on there, and you can kind of hear what I came up with by myself, and then what happened after I had brought it, and let Robert do what he wanted to do, and Sam add the electric piano, and so it's definitely a collaborative thing.
Yeah, especially playing them for 2 years to that really because they sounded similar to the demo when we first started playing, and then
grooves developed.
Then we realized there were problems with that, and
because I think we knew that these were good songs. And a lot of them, like St. Paul Lights, our single, for a long time we wanted to scrap it because we couldn't get it to work live and it just didn't sound good. So we really had to stick with these songs for a long time, and now they're to the point where they're exactly where we want them, and they sound way better than they did on the demo.
So did a lot of these songs, did you have a lot of these songs coming into what... We'll talk about Table for Two in a little bit, but did you have a lot of the songs that you released? Because you've been releasing singles pretty constantly every year or so, or every 6 months or so, since you guys formed. Were a lot of these songs things you had written before coming into the band, or and you just gigged them until you felt ready, or how did that come about?
So the demo, I had all that stuff before. I'd written that my freshman year of college, and even some of in high school too. But then everything else we've come out with, the Taste of Paradise 2-song EP we had, and then Kai's song, those are all songs that I wrote after the band had began, after we had formed.
So the new EP is titled Table for Two, and like you mentioned earlier, much of that EP Table for Two is found on that demo you released right after the band was formed, Lowest Form of Life. What was the process like remaking a lot of those songs?
There's lots of time and woodshedding, I guess. I don't know. We all kind of, after playing them for so long, we found our parts and built upon that and changed parts, and I don't know, changed the whole instrumentation of certain songs. And
well, I think we're definitely a band that thinks about the recording process when we're writing. Most of my parts are a weird combination of what I would want to record, with different layers, and I have to just kind of pick how I do it.
Right. Okay. So the songs to kind of recreate where they got. I think a lot of it did come in the studio, and we had the opportunity to record at this place called Petting Zoo Studios with a friend named Andrew, and so essentially we could, for 2 months, every weekend we would go in at 10 a.m. and then leave at 10 p.m. It was just a really long day, and so we just sat with the songs for a really long time. And though we had worked them out live, like Robert said, the creating the record sound was definitely something we did in the studio, just sitting there doing takes over and over again and coming up with ideas and just messing with the songs.
Lots of takes.
Lots of takes. How do you guys... You said something like lots of takes. Are you guys people who are brutally honest with each other in the studio, or how does that kind of dynamic work, especially when you're working with a 5-member band and something that, again, you guys sound like you're spending a lot of time making sure things sound the way they should when going on record?
Definitely. It's the most productive thing you can do is be open and honest with the people that you're creating music with, because if you have an idea of how something, you want to have something sound, there's no reason to at least give it a shot, and if it's a good idea, it sticks. If it doesn't, you do another take of something else, pretty much, until it's right.
I also think we work out a lot of the tension of that creative input while we're practicing ahead of time. That's where we might argue or disagree. So then once we get in the studio, we already kind of have a cohesive idea of what we want to do. So there's not a whole lot of arguing other than us, like sit up at like midnight. Sam's doing keyboard solos, and Robert and I are like, nope, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Do it again. And I think we all know like what standard we're trying to reach. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't want to keep going, like I think we all have a common goal of like that's going to be good enough.
Yeah. I think also we all have higher standards for ourselves than anyone else in the band. Like the amount of times each of us has been like, absolutely not. I cannot let that take slide. And then like it'll be like, no man, it was perfect. It was perfect, man. Two more. And we go back like 10 takes, and it's like that was the perfect one there. Yeah. I don't know what you're doing here.
So a lot of these were like tested on the road in front of people, or is that a lot of kind of the touring test for a lot of the material of this band then, or?
Yeah, I mean like the ones that feel good live are the ones we put on the record. We've abandoned some songs. Okay. Like we have that Taste of Paradise EP, and I think we like those songs. Yeah. We just never really play them live. Yep. So that kind of going back to the studio thing, I think. Just occasionally we record something and it sounds really good, and then we try to do it in the live again. It just doesn't really work.
So what was the studio you guys recorded this at? That was
the Petting Zoo. Yeah, Petting Zoo Studios.
Work with a producer for that, or?
Yeah, our buddy Andrew Henriksen. Okay. He recorded Kai's song. Okay. But yeah, he did a lot. He had a lot of really creative input on the album. Right. Honestly, just like he would do stuff without even telling us, and we'd hear it and be like, "Oh wow, that's really really sick." Mm-hmm.
Stuff like playing songs or studio production work.
Yeah,
or
specifically, like he added a lot of. And Just Give Me a Minute and Devil's Country, there's a bunch of just like echoes over the vocal parts and
on like one line.
Yeah, just like small little details, but like you pick it up if you're like listening to it really intently, and you're just like, oh, I didn't know that was there, and it wasn't there. But that's like one of the coolest things I think I've heard in a while.
Yeah, so we didn't necessarily have like a creative producer there. We were kind of doing it ourselves, but Andrew's got a really good ear, and I think we trust him. Mm-hmm. And we were mixing it like. I was gone on a trip, and we been out of the studio for a while, so it was just him doing mixes of coming up with stuff and sending it our way, and then we change it. But he came up with some really really cool stuff.
So one thing I found with this EP was there was this through line of like almost a dissolve of a relationship or something. Is that something that was because these songs have been sitting or have been around since at least 2016 and even older, was that kind of the intention for the underlying theme, or was that once you narrowed it down?
Well, I think actually now that it's out, I've thought about it a little bit more, and it turns out these songs actually do make sense together, because it is like a relationship thing, and some of them are your classic like romantic like breakup relationship, but all like from Devil's Country is definitely about when I lived up at the cabin and a relationship with my best friend Dan, and like loving each other but just hating each other in the moment. And then like, Soap is about, it's a relationship, it's on kind of with yourself and kind of just about that. And then, Just Give Me a Minute is way past kind of like looking way back into the developmental years, or whatever you want to call them. Kind of like that's a really old song.
Okay, I'm very picky when I listen to music when it comes to how the song is how the album or EP is introduced and how it ends. And I feel like that final song, I'm blanking on the song title suddenly. There we go. Just Give Me a Minute is that perfect like wrap up song. It's just, I don't know. Unfortunately I'm lacking the words to describe it, but it's just this. I don't know, it just puts a nice period, kind of ties everything up in a bow. Is that kind of your intention when programming this EP, or?
I suppose like it's kind of like the last line of the whole EP is but it's I'd give it all again just to hear your heart confess, like that. And I think that like kind of does wrap up the whole thing. Just a very vulnerable record with a lot of these lyrics I've had for a long time, and I've reworked them, and they've changed in meaning with time and stuff. So yeah, I think I didn't necessarily mean for it to go like that, but it did end up that way, and I'm glad it makes somewhat of sense. So,
where was this cabin that you lived with when you recorded that first demo?
It's in northern Wisconsin, Hayward.
Okay, yeah.
It's, the cabin hub of northern Wisconsin. Yeah, right on the lake, and we just sat there and
Read
took
on the
sunset
road.
cruises, and we read that on the road, the Jack Kerouac book, which is where we got the name for the band.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I haven't finished it. I've started On the Road probably 3 or 4 times, and maybe gets like a quarter way through, and then I have to put it down. And
It's got a long one.
yeah, that makes so much sense. I was like, the name sounds super familiar, and I'm not sure where it's from.
Yeah, it's the main character of that
Okay,
book,
yeah,
but
that's
it doesn't. It's not mentioned like a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So we just, I don't know. We needed a band name too, and our other ideas were horrible.
Well, it gives us a good opportunity to make the joke of when we're not playing, we're reading.
We're a literature
None of
rock
us
band.
really read.
Dude, I have dyslexia. I can't.
I think I'm the only one.
the intellectual university band.
Dude, I watch a lot of video essays.
Kate Malanafy, I think.
Malanafy.
Malanafy. Apologize for the butchering of her last name. Lent her vocal talents to this EP. Was that intended? Did you guys think about her when starting recording, or how did that come together?
Yeah, so I don't know where the first time I saw Kate perform, but she's just like
One of the
great
most
voice.
amazing vocalists I've ever
just
met.
such a good musician and a really good songwriter too. And so it kind of just started with and we also both go to Hamlin, and I was like, hey Kate, you want to write some songs? So we just started writing some songs together, just for a project we were working on, and then I asked her if she wanted to sing on the EP, and we worked out all the Sal Paradise songs. And man, I think her vocals are my favorite part of the whole record.
Is she on every song, or almost every?
Just about. Also, our friend Ruth sang on there too. In the first track, Ruth sang, and then all the other tracks, Kate is on there.
Okay. Because I know it's definitely Samuel Dustin. You mentioned that the producer you worked with definitely worked in production adding things, and it made Kate's voice, either you would notice it or it would just be you'd have to listen really hard, but that piece is almost integral to adding another layer to songs, because it works there, especially when you compare the two, the Lowest Form of Life demo and this EP, when you listen to those songs. So is that kind of I don't know where this is going. I just started running on it.
When we were mixing it, Kate's such an awesome singer. She's a lead singer, 100%. So when we were mixing it, Andrew was kind of mixing it like regular background vocals are, just pretty below the lead, and you don't really hear it unless you listen for it. Yeah. And we just had it bumped up, so almost every song that Kate sings on, it's almost even with me, and that's exactly what I wanted.
It feels like a duet without it being like you're trading lyrics, or you're trading phrases, which kind of adds to that through line of there maybe being a dissolving of a relationship. It gives the other side, as you will. But
yeah, we've tried that a little bit, but I don't know if we ever formally talked about that before we worked on the song.
So just one final question. You have a release show tonight, and unfortunately that won't this will be up this week, so it'll come and gone. Do you guys have any gigs coming up?
A bunch. I actually have the list on my phone. Well, that's we gotta get on to do that.
Ostensibly planned tour. That's our goal. But we do have some shows on the horizon coming up here.
Let's see. Okay, so May 31st at the Row House, which is somewhere in St. Paul. I'm not exactly sure where that is. July 13th at Midway Access. July 19th at Cadence. June 3rd, we're going to do an art and music kind of, festival almost. It's sort of similar to what's going on tonight at Parkway Theater. which is...
Is that part of like the art world?
No, it's separate. But I got this opportunity to put on like this. Like I wanted to make it because it's a seated theater.
Yeah.
And so I thought about and to get more people there, thought about it. Like we're gonna have visual artists doing like live visuals on a backdrop that's behind the bands.
Okay.
I'm trying to get like artists there to sell prints and posters and clothing that they make and that kind of stuff.
So if you want a place to sell your art, or just like showcase it, just send us a message.
Please,
I'm sure we can get you on that show. That'd be awesome.
And then June 8th, I wrote this down as Art Thingy Yard Party. But it's ostensibly literally that. It's an outdoor event, end of the school year kind of thing that I don't remember.
Kind of a similar thing. I think there's going to be some visual artists there and maybe some... I don't know.
Nice time to enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, so we got some stuff going on.
Are all of you guys visual artists?
I'm really horrible at drawing.
Me too. But I think the best thing through this process of doing the EP, especially, I've got to work closely with some graphic designers, both like my friends Noah and Wilson, who are in Alexander and Natalie, and then our friend Tegan DeVoe. Yeah. And through that, I've kind of been able to, look at things and be like, I think that would look better this way. So I don't do it myself, but I'd like to.
Because I looking at your guys' kind of artwork and various, like the teaser video you guys released a few days ago or a week ago, like you guys are very specific in your aesthetic. I've noticed, and
we're trying. It
kind of just happened that way. Like I looked on Spotify last night when the record came up. I just looked at the album together. Purple, pinks,
wash tones,
light blues,
and I don't even think we ever had a formal conversation. We're like, all right, we're going for that.
We've never had a formal conversation, but we've said like a million times, like, yeah, we're a purple band, burgundy, deep red wine colors, like
and
earth tones.
It just happened that way. I think it coincides with the music pretty well.
Yeah, purple's a very touching color,
and especially since you guys are such a relaxed kind of band. Like I mentioned when we were standing outside waiting to record, I mentioned it was almost the perfect Saturday morning EP, even though it's maybe a little melancholy at times. It just kind of ease you into the day.
Yeah. That's the thing, is the first song, Soap, it's terribly sad lyrics, but it's really like an upbeat, fun, kind of loungy song.
Goofy song.
Super goofy song. And that's one of the things, is our music is really melancholy. It might even seem serious, but
we're not.
We're totally not.
There's an auto-tuned scat solo under my keyboard solo in that song, just because of like.
You thought it would be funny.
Yeah, thought it would be funny.
Who recorded the scat solo?
I did.
Okay.
It's sang not super well, but it gets the point across. And it's a texture. I guess.
And it's like pretty loud in the mix.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It's auto-tuned as well.
Yep. The front half. It's funny because I think the front half it's not, and it's panned to the left, and then the auto-tune kicks in and pans to the right.
It sounds so dumb, but like that's the thing, is when we were sitting in the studio for hours, like slaving over these songs.
Dude, just like scat.
I think it was just me and Sam drunk in the studio. And
but that was like we wanted that part of the band to be in the songs, in these super serious songs. Like, we're goofy, we don't take ourselves too seriously.
That's why we had so many cervezas in the
It's
studio.
Modelo time.
But on that note, thank you, gentlemen, for sitting down with me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Of course. Good luck tonight. I know, again, people who are listening now it'll have come and gone.
Yes.
But
hopefully some people have made it.
Yeah, of course.
We'll see.
But thank you guys for sitting down. I hope you guys have a great show tonight. All right.
This has been awesome.
Yeah,
thanks.
Thank you.
Aren't those guys great? I love being able to just sit back and just let them chat with each other, and I just ask a question here or there and let them go, because honestly, there's nothing more boring than listening to somebody trying to be the music intellectual in the conversation. Make sure you go check out Table for Two. It's out now on any streaming platform you can find it on. Buy it on Bandcamp, support the artists, and go see them live. As Samuel Dustin mentioned, all of the dates they have coming up. They have a ton of shows this spring and summer. The Ear Coffee podcast is a companion to a blog of the same name, earcoffee.blogspot.com. The Ear Coffee blog has become your spot for everything underground and indie in the Minnesota scene. If you have heard of a band, we've probably covered it, so go there, read all of our reviews, all of our interviews. You can find us on social media as well. That's the best place to hear everything first and not have to go search for it. You can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook at Ear Coffee, and that's coffee with 3 E's, COFFEEE. My name's Joe Keyport. And I thank you for listening. Rate and review us on iTunes so more people can find us. Rating and reviewing us allows us so we can stand out against the sea of other podcasts, because while we're a tiny and very niche podcast, there's something cool here that more people should know about than just us and the band and our friends. My name's Joe Keyport, and you've been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast.